Rabies. You know, the word alone is enough to conjure up some pretty terrifying images, right? And for good reason. It's one of history's most feared diseases, a kind of stealthy viral assassin with an almost 100% kill rate when symptoms show up. So today, let's trace the fatal journey of this truly remarkable and absolutely horrifying virus.
I mean, the stakes here could not be higher. From the very moment the virus gets into the body, a clock starts ticking. It's this silent, invisible invasion that, if you don't stop it, has only one possible ending. But what happens in that in-between time? That's the real story here. See, it's not just a disease. It's more like a meticulously planned heist of the entire nervous system. So, that's what we're going to do. We're going to follow this virus, step by step, from the moment it gets in all the way to its devastating takeover of the body's command center, the brain.
All right, so first things first, let's meet our antagonist. What exactly is this microscopic intruder that has so perfectly mastered the art of hijacking a mammal's body?
So what you're looking at here is the rabies virus. It's part of the rhabdovirus family. And honestly, its shape is just incredible. It's not a sphere, it's not some random blob. It's literally shaped like a bullet. I mean, talk about a poetic design for something so incredibly deadly.
Okay, let's quickly break down its toolkit. What makes it so effective? Its genetic code is RNA, but here's the thing. It's what's called negative polarity, which basically means it's written backwards. The host cell can't read it, so the virus has to bring its own decoder, the special enzyme, to translate the message. It's kind of like a burglar showing up to a job with their own custom set of lockpicks. And maybe the most terrifying feature of all, it has an incredibly broad host range. It can infect practically any mammal, from a tiny bat all the way to a blue whale, and of course, us. So, every good assassin needs a way in, right? Well, for the rabies virus, the method is as brutally effective as it is direct. And this is the classic scenario, the one we all think of. The virus has already taken over its current host, and it's made its way to the salivary glands, basically turning that animal's saliva into a weapon. One bite, that's all it takes to breach the defenses of a brand new host. Okay, so where does this threat actually come from? Well, rabies basically exists in two main cycles. First, you've got urban rabies. This is the one we're probably most familiar with. It involves unimmunized domestic animals, like dogs and cats. And then there's sylvatic rabies. This is the virus just doing its thing out in wildlife populations. Think skunks, raccoons, foxes, and yeah, especially bats. And, while it might seem pretty rare in some parts of the world, if you look at the global picture, it is a completely different story. That number right there, 15,000, that's the estimated number of people who die from rabies every single year. And the vast majority of those cases are in regions where animal vaccination programs just aren't as widespread. Okay, so once the virus is inside the body, here's where things get really insidious. It doesn't launch an immediate all-out attack. Nope. Instead, it begins this long, silent journey. And this is where the real race against time kicks off. So let's trace its path. First, the virus sets up a little base camp. It multiplies right there in the muscle tissue around the bite. Then it finds what it's really looking for, the nerve endings. The very wires that send signals all the way to your brain. It latches on, and then it just starts this slow, methodical climb up those nerve fibers, moving centimeter by centimeter towards the spinal cord and the brain. And here's what's so wild about this journey. The time it takes is super variable. It could be just 10 days, or it could be over a year. This silent phase, what we call the incubation period, it almost entirely depends on one thing: how far the virus has to travel. And this quote right here explains it perfectly. If you get bitten on the face, well, the virus has a really short commute to the brain, so the incubation period is going to be short. But a bite on the leg, that's a cross-country trip. That distance, the distance from the bite to the brain, that is the single most critical factor in how much time you have to act. So this is the crucial point, right? As long as the virus is on this sneaky journey inside the nerves, it's actually vulnerable. The body's immune system can't see it while it's hiding in there. But this is our window of opportunity. This is when post-exposure shots can work. They basically train your immune system to build an army that can intercept and destroy the virus before it reaches its target. It is quite literally a race for your life. But what happens if you lose that race? If treatment doesn't happen in time, the virus, it eventually reaches its destination. And this is where the heist's horrifying climax begins. Okay, so once it's inside the central nervous system, the virus sets up shop in the brain's gray matter. It just starts replicating like crazy. And in the process, it creates these little telltale clumps of viral material called negri bodies. They're the calling card it leaves behind. Then, with the command center totally compromised, it pulls off its final brilliant move. It travels back out from the brain along other nerves to colonize other tissues, most importantly the salivary glands, loading them up with fresh virus, getting ready to jump to a new host.
And it's only at this final stage, after the brain has been completely hijacked, that the famous, horrifying symptoms start to appear. But here's the thing, they aren't random. They are a direct result of the virus manipulating the host body for one purpose, its own transmission. So let's tackle the big one, probably the most famous symptom of all, hydrophobia, the so-called fear of water. But is the person actually afraid of water? The short answer is no. It's not a psychological fear in the way we think of it. What's actually happening is that the virus has infected the parts of the brain that control swallowing. So any attempt to drink, or even just thinking about drinking, triggers these intense, agonizingly painful spasms in the throat muscles. It isn't fear, it's a violent physical rejection of swallowing. And this, right here, is the virus's diabolical strategy in action. If you can't swallow, what happens to all that saliva that's now packed with virus? Well, it has nowhere to go. It just builds up, and that's what causes the classic, infamous foaming at the mouth. The virus has perfectly engineered its host into a delivery system, ensuring a mouthful of infectious saliva is ready for the next bite. So when you step back and look at the whole picture, this entire terrifying process, it all hinges on that one single race up the nervous system. The fact that we can stop this nearly 100% fatal outcome just by intervening during that silent commute, it's just a stark reminder of the incredible power of a head start. It's not just about fighting the virus, it's about beating it to the finish line. And it really makes you wonder, what other battles in life are won or lost simply based on who gets out of the gate first?